guys, it's Gilbert here. So today I'm going to be changing a bearing, a rear hub bearing on a 2003 Audi A4 Quattro. So please stick with me and hopefully this helps you out. So this is the car, it's my sister's car. First thing we're going to do is take the wheel and tire off, which I already loosened it, so it'll just come off. And so our hub bearing is this whole assembly right here. Well, this is part of the rotor, but it's back here, and that's gonna be what we take off. I'll show you the steps on how to go through that. Okay, so the first thing I'll start off with doing is we have to loosen this bolt right here. This holds on your CV axle, which is back here, and that's what the bearing is turning. So you'll need a 17mm Allen head socket and a breaker bar or impact wrench, whatever you have that'll get that loose. It's actually on there pretty tight, so it'll just go on there like that, and just set the e-brake before you do it, and just turn it loose. Now my whole assembly actually started turning, so what I did is I stuck one of the lug nuts back in, I screwed it back in, and that'll prevent everything from turning so that the rotor actually stays with the bearing, so that the e-brake will have the effect it needs to have to loosen that bolt. Okay, so here's the bolt we just took out. It goes in right here. Like I said, it's what holds on the CV axle. So that's what you'll be taking out first. Next will be the caliper. So obviously release the e-brake, and it'll be this one right here. This bolt, it's a 13mm and a 15mm that you also need to hold this on. And that'll be the second thing we take off. Okay, so how I'm explaining it is you'll put the 13mm right here on this one and the 15 right here, and you'll just turn to loosen while holding it, and it'll start coming off. And you just repeat the same thing for the bottom. Okay, I got the caliper off. Next thing we're going to take off is the bracket that holds on the caliper. That has two bolts. It's this one right here, and then this one down here. And what you'll need for that is a 8mm either an Allen wrench, or you'll need an 8mm socket, obviously with an Allen wrench head, and that'll be what takes it off. So I'll give you the demonstration. So it'll just go in right there, and you'll just loosen it, and it'll just start coming off. Okay, so the next thing we're going to start taking off is all the bolts holding on the actual hub assembly, which would consist of this one. I'm not sure what this is, like I guess some type of sway bar. The shock absorber, we're going to need to take that off too. There's actually an actual sway bar right here. We're going to need to take that off. There's two 13mm bolts from the bottom that need to be taken off. There's also another bolt right back here. And just watch out for your ABS sensor, because those get pretty pricey, so be sure to take that off also. One thing I want to add is watch out for this alignment on this one, on these, because this aligns your camber. So just take a note of that, or take a picture of how they were so you know how they go back on. So what I'll start taking off is this one. This is an 18mm bolt with a 18mm screw, so use a wrench or another socket if you have one, or an adjustable crescent wrench to just hold this one so you can take this one off. Okay, so I got it off. You may have to support the control arm with a jack stand and then lower the car so it gets back to the right height, so it's easier to take off that bolt. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the cable that controls the emergency brake, which is that one right there, this one, and just to get the caliper more out of the way to work more comfortably. So all you really need to do is you need to just squeeze this down, this whole, so I can get a good shot, just, well, this thing, it's right here, and slip the cable up and out, and then you'll need a flathead screwdriver to get this retainer out, and then the cable will just come out through the bottom. Okay, so here's our clip we had to take out. It just slips on right down here, right there, and just holds the cable in place. So, you know, just work it out carefully with a screwdriver and be careful not to lose it. Okay, so also I had already removed the rotor. So this is the hub. This is what we're gonna end up changing. You can see that mine has some play in it. You probably can't see it in the video, but you can feel it, especially when you take the CV axle out. It has a lot of play. And that's not something we want because everything can fly off eventually. But the next thing I'll probably take off is the shield, you know, just to work more comfortably. It's these screws. They're I believe they're T27 or T30, but there's 3 of them. One right here, you know, the first one in the middle, and one down here, and the shield will just come off. Okay, so just to confirm, it is a Torx T27. I have mine right here, and I'll, you know, just start loosening it. Okay guys, so the next thing I'm going to start taking off is this bolt right here. This is an 18mm socket, and then obviously it has a nut back here. Let's see if I can get a shot of it right there. That's also going to be an 18mm. And I'm also going to take off this one. This one is also an 18mm, along with the nut holding it on. And then, yeah, I'll show you guys how to do all that, and then we'll move on to the next part. So I'm just going to use my impact wrench and take this bolt off. I'll probably have to hold it from the back, but it's kind of hard to do with only one hand and recording at the same time, but I'll get that. I just wanted to show you guys that it can be done for those of you that may have difficulties out there. But yeah, it's doable. Okay guys, so here are the bolts. Notice that one is longer than the other. The longer one goes to the rear of the vehicle, so just make a note of that so you don't struggle later on. And the front one goes towards the front of the vehicle, so that's an easy thing to remember. Next thing I'll take off is the shock absorber. This one is also going to be it's going to be a little bit bigger. This one's going to be a 19 or a 21mm bolt with the nut on the back of it. Okay guys, so I got the whole hub assembly loose. Now the next thing we're going to do, and this is a very important step, so please keep this in mind, you have to remove this ABS sensor. If you don't remove it, these are pretty expensive sensors. They range from $50 to $100 a piece. So just be careful when removing it. You know, you'll need let's see if this little Allen wrench has a size on it. Unfortunately it doesn't, so I couldn't tell you the size. I know it's a little bit bigger than 3/16. So you know, just remove it. So you could just stick it in right there and it'll just break free. Sorry I didn't really get a good shot of it, but it'll just break free. And be careful taking the sensor out, because sometimes they do get rusty and stick in there, so you may have to pry it out. But luckily this one, you know, has some grease on it, and thankfully it survived. So just do that, because you don't want to break those sensors. Okay guys, let me see if I can get good lighting here, but here's our hub assembly. So you can tell the bearing's bad because it's making that sound. Bearings aren't supposed to make that sound, and it has some play in it. Bearings are supposed to also be very rigid and stiff. So yeah, I don't have a press. These bearings need to be pressed in. I just went to the junkyard and got a good used one, but eventually I am gonna get a new one installed and pressed in, because I don't really like buying stuff from the junkyard. But you know, it's a quick fix. So how these will be pressed out is they have you use a special press, well, you know, just any other press, and it gets pressed out from back here, and this whole thing will come out. And to press it back in, it's the same process but in reverse. Alright, so I got the bearing off. Here's my newish used one, I guess you could say, but it's pretty straightforward to put back in. You just gotta make sure everything's aligned right and everything, especially, you know, between these tight spaces right here, just everything, you know, that fits correctly. But it should go in exactly the same way as it came out, so shouldn't be too much of a struggle. I'll walk you guys through the steps of also reinstalling it, so that way you guys know how to do that also. Okay, so I just set the bearing in place just by putting on this one, just so I could show you guys how, you know, how to reinstall it. So you want to make sure everything's aligned everywhere. You know, this will kind of align itself once you set it back into place. But you definitely for sure want to make sure your CV axle goes in first, so you can align the bearing correctly and everything. But like I said, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. I'll start by just going in reverse order. I'll start by putting in these lower ones first, and I'll work my way back up so I don't miss anything. Okay, so I got my lower bolts in. I also just went ahead and tightened them with my impact wrench. The next thing I'll do is put in the one that goes to the shock absorber, which is the bigger one that we took out. And then, just slowly start assembling everything again. I'll put the ABS sensor back in next. I'll just align it for now and, just go from there. Alright guys, so I got my shock absorber in and tightened. Next thing I'll put in is I guess this thing that aligns the camber. Just like I said, remember your measurement that you took, or your picture that you took to align the camber on the right way. That'll be one of the last few things. Then we can just install the rotor and the back shield that goes on here, and just take it from there. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna put on is the backing plate. It just slides on like that and can only really go on one way, so just remember your 3 screws which go right here at the top, one right here at the middle, and then one down here at the bottom. If I can get a good shot at it. But yeah, that's what we'll do next. Okay guys, so I got my backing plate on. Next we'll put her on the rotor, followed by the caliper bracket, which is right there, and then the caliper. And don't forget the emergency brake cable. I'll show you guys how to install that. There's some pretty easy ways of doing that, so don't be too worried. Okay, so just remember that since it came out from the bottom right there, we just want to slip it back through. You can get a pair of pliers and do this, but you just want to compress this spring down, and just stick the little ball, this little ball right here, in here where it came out of, and it'll go back in. It might take a little bit of finesse and patience, but it's nothing too hard. So there it is, back in. Also remember to put in your clip that goes right there. See if I can focus this. Right there, that clip. But it's actually a lot easier to install it than to take it out, so don't be too frightened by it. But yeah, we'll just put the caliper back on and then go from there. Alright, so I got the caliper back on. So now our final step before we can finish everything off is we have to just put in the same bolt we took out for the CV axle. I'm not too sure on the torque spec for it, but I'll look it up right now and let you guys know so you can torque it adequately. Or you could just tighten it really tight, whatever you prefer to do if you don't have access to a torque wrench. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully this video helped you out. Please subscribe to the channel, and good luck with your repairs.